Hello everyone, welcome to 6 African Trade Talks, the show that brings you closer to the intra-Africa trade business world. I'm your host, Chad Chawanda. I would like to ask you to please leave a review. It will help us engage more with you and also to improve our podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, please remember to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to podcasts from. In this episode, our guest is Tinotenda Chibebe. Tinotenda is the author of The Black Opportunity, Conversations on Belgian Venture Capital and Afropean Entrepreneurship that explores how the inclusion of Black voices in the venture capital space will shape the world. Welcome to 6 African Trade Talks. Tino, how are you?
I'm good, Chad. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Before we start our show, we'd like to hear a word from our sponsors.
Advocado Africa is a pan-African digital marketing social enterprise. With the exponential growth in smartphone users in Africa, you have to take your marketing digital. Advocado can do that for you. Advocado, minding your business.
Africa is talking business. Be a part of it. IATF is the key event boosting trade in Africa. No other event brings together more professionals under one roof. In 2021, IATF's theme will focus on the newly launched African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, a single market for goods and services across 54 countries aimed at boosting trade and investment. To learn more, visit www.intraafricantradefair.com.
Tino, please tell us more about yourself.
Thanks, Chad. First of all, I'm happy to be here and grateful for this opportunity. So my name is Tinotenda Chibebe. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe and then subsequently moved to Belgium. In the past year, I wrote a book called The Black Opportunity, which is probably why we're here today.
Certainly. Thank you very much for sharing. In what ways do you believe the rise of social media has impacted global perceptions of the African continent broadly?
Great question, Chad. I think social media has done two things. Firstly, it has done a lot to humanize the content. I think pre-social media, the image of Africa was restricted to the Maasai jumping in Kenya, flies on young children's faces, the Zimbabwean case study on hyperinflation and endless civil wars. With social media, we as Africans have a platform free of agendas to tell our stories as is. No framing, no exaggeration for effect, just the raw experiences we go through on a day-to-day basis. Some people are indeed struggling, while some of the people are flourishing, building the most cutting-edge companies in the world, etc. So just like everyone else in the world, we're on a spectrum of existence, right? And not just one thing that foreign media has portrayed us to be. The second thing I think social media has done is that it has shown how resourceful Africans can be. Today, social media is a tool for political organization on the continent, and it's also a tool used for entertainment. And through these ways, I think social media has helped shine a light on an already existing potential for African creativity, amongst many other things.
I believe so too. I've seen things on social media that I didn't even know existed in Africa. So it definitely gives us an opportunity to show the real Africa and the all sides of Africa. You are the author of The Black Opportunity Conversations on Belgium Venture Capital and Afropean Entrepreneurship. Please walk us through the main themes you explore in your book.
So my book explores various themes. Firstly, I explore the intersection of venture capital, entrepreneurship, and Afro-Europeans. I then explore what the current landscape is like in Belgium, and also what must be done to get Black people a seat at the table. I also try to answer three main questions with this work. That is, how do we tap into underrepresented Black communities in Belgium and Europe at large? What challenges do Black entrepreneurs face on the continent? And how do we create inclusive environments within venture capital? So those are some of the themes that my book goes into and some of the questions I try to answer through my work.
Thank you. And where can we find your book?
So you can find my book wherever books are sold online, Barnes & Noble. If you're in Belgium, that's bol.com. My personal go-to is amazon.com. And you can just add whatever extension that you're at. So amazon.de if you're in Germany, or amazon.co.uk if you're in the UK, etc.
Thank you very much for sharing. What were your main motivations towards writing this book?
Thank you for the question, Chad. So there were a couple of motivations that had to come together, actually. So with regards to the book, back when I was 17, I wrote a list of things I wanted to do with my life. And one of those things was write a book. So the seed was planted there. And when I started university, I started to look more into myself, specifically myself as a Black person in this world, and more specifically in Belgium and what that means. This inspired a lot of reading and the formulation of what I wanted my life to be about, a sort of purpose. So what that currently is today is to create access to massive wealth and opportunity for Black people all over the world in any small and big way that I can. So then at some point, I also joined a finance student organization in Belgium called Capitan. There, we served as the bridge between the world of finance and the classroom. And we did this by hosting events, workshops, networking opportunities, and investment simulation games. And through my involvement with that organization, I realized that there was a lack of Black people in finance and tech, especially in leadership positions in Belgium. Of particular interest to me was the VC space because of its entrepreneurial component. I've dabbled in starting a business as a student, which didn't really work out, but the interest in entrepreneurship has endured. So when the opportunity materialized to write a book, and given that I'd been writing articles on a range of things as well around the same time, I thought it was a great opportunity to really understand innovation, the financing of tech innovations, and how Black people are participating in that ecosystem. So I wrote the book not only to organize my thoughts on the aforementioned, but to also provide literature that didn't exist in Belgium and bring forth an under-discussed conversation to the fore.
Thank you for sharing. Before we continue, I would like to hear a word from our sponsors.
Did you see that billboard? No, I didn't. I was looking at my phone. That's how billboard advertising is now ineffective. If you ever wondered how to employ people with disabilities, then by working with Advocado, you would have just done that. Advocado is a social enterprise focusing on using digital marketing to create employment for people of determination and young women across Africa. Let's do it together. If you want to make a difference, contact us now at www.advocado.africa.
What was the most unexpected finding you made during your research towards this publication?
So to me, I went in thinking that on some level, it's the best businesses that just happen to float to the top, correct? But what I wasn't expecting to find is that there's a whole other component to business success and opportunity that has to do with who you know, how you know them, and how similar you are to that person. That is a meritocracy as opposed to a meritocracy. So one of the manifestations of this meritocracy is that some of the funding numbers on the African continent reflect this. In an article in The Guardian by Larry Madowo, he cited the following figures. In South Africa, 56% of startups led by locals received more than $1 million in funding. In Nigeria, that number is 55%. And in Kenya, it's only 6% of startups that received more than $1 million that were led by locals. So why does this happen? Because a lot of the people doing VC investing in Africa are white and male. And because of this meritocracy, they invest in white male founders instead of Black African local founders. So that was the most surprising thing that I found out through the process of working on my book.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing your findings. To your mind, what is the importance of collating data on the characteristics of VC activities?
Look, Chad, I think data collection is invaluable. I don't think I can put the magnitude of that importance into words. You can't improve upon what you can't measure, right? So, for example, one of the characteristics of VC at the moment is that it disproportionately favors white male founders. We can't have meaningful conversations that lead to policy changes and industry-wide changes if we don't have hard data. Data means policy. It also means actionable change. So yeah, I think data is super important in that regard.
Amazing. This year, it is predicted that VC funding in Africa will increase between $2.25 billion and $2.8 billion, which, if met, will surpass 2019 figures. By your research, has this increase in funding naturally resulted in an increase of funding opportunities for African founders? Broadly, how do African founders fare on the continent?
So for sure, I think more money means more financing for African startups, right? In addition to that, Africa has a growing middle class. It's set to have 12 megacities by 2025. And I think all that means more demand for consumer products and an increased demand for more efficient ways of living and doing business, right? So there's that, and alongside factors including but not limited to increased corporate venturing, healthy M&A activity on the continent, and increased FDI, which have all led to increased funding opportunities for African startups. And with regards to how this affects African founders broadly, there's still a ways to go for the African founder. I touched on some of this in your previous question on what I found unexpected through my research. And in addition to that, there's still a lot of work to be done in addressing the inequities between male and female founders. Because at the moment, all male startups on the continent still get disproportionately large share of funding in Africa. So there's work to be done on those areas.
Certainly, and I hope the African Continental Free Trade Area will also make things better. And that leads us to the next question. By your analysis, in what ways will the African Continental Free Trade Agreement open up funding opportunities for African founders?
I think the main way the free trade agreement will open up funding opportunities for African founders is that it will expand the total addressable market sizes for African startups, which will attract more investors. Numerous studies have pointed to a positive relationship between foreign trade agreements and FDI inflows. So I think it will only do good things, in my opinion.
We're looking forward to seeing it, improving how we do business in the continent. Finally, what one thing about the African continent continues to surprise you?
I think very little surprises me about the continent. I think I'm more surprised by what other people are surprised about when it comes to Africa. I think we're still very much underestimated as a continent. And the more we create for ourselves and for our future generations, the more we'll step into our role as the global force I know we can be.
My business is growing. Thanks to Advocado Africa, digital marketing is the way to go. I get to know what my customers want and how they feel in real time. Besides, I choose how much to spend. I feel in control. If you want to take control of your marketing, contact Advocado Africa now. Visit www.advocadoafrica. Advocado Africa. We mind your business.
Africa is a continent full of potential, but potential means nothing if we don't take action to create value. Let us take action. Thank you for listening to this episode. Don't forget to post and share this episode on your social media platforms. It will help us reach our mission of sharing knowledge about intra-Africa trade and making it available to as many people as possible. Let us grow our continent. We can go far, fast, together. If you can please leave a review on our podcast page or on Apple Podcasts. See you next time.